Welcome back to my channel. I am the Crochet Hermit. In this video, we are making a V-stitch crochet blouse. I am making a size medium, but I will show you how to alter the pattern to fit any size that you desire. If you want to make the matching skirt, I will have a tutorial link in the description at the bottom. I put a measuring chart together for those of you following your own measurements. You need to know your full bust, length of top, and strap measurements. My bust measurement is actually 30 inches, but I'm going to do a measurement of 28 because I am counting on the shirt stretching out. Replace my measurement with yours for a perfect fit. Grab your 5mm crochet hook and make a slip knot. You want to have a long enough tail to weave in at the end. Chain a total of 94 chains. This is roughly around 26 to 30 inches, and this is the measurement of my bust. If you are following your own measurements, you need to chain an even number. One of these chains is going to count as a turning chain. The chains need to be long enough to wrap around your bust. I am finished chaining my chains. When you measure your chains, stretch it out a little bit. Don't overstretch it. When I lay this on the measuring tape, it goes to 26 inches and it does stretch out to 30. Stretching out your chains give you a more accurate measurement because as you start working inside these chains, they will stretch out and you don't want your project bigger than what you desire it to be. For row number 1, you're going to insert your hook inside the second chain from the hook. Place a double crochet. If you do not know how to double crochet, I will have a video linked in the description of how to crochet the main stitches. We are going to place double crochets inside each stitch in this row. You should have a total of 93 double crochets when you are finished. If you are following your own measurements, the total of stitches needs to be an odd number. This is what it looks like when row 1 is complete. And I already feel like I'm going to get this question in the comments. Yes, we started off with an even number, but we did skip that first chain. So now we're at an odd number. Chain 1 and turn your work. We are chaining 1 in between all of our rows. Next up is the length. This measures from your armpit to however long you want your shirt. I am doing a length of 8 inches. Replace my measurement with yours for a perfect fit. For row number 2, we are working V-stitches. Inside this first stitch, we are going to place 2 double crochets. 2 double crochets inside 1 stitch. This is what it looks like when I have my 2 double crochets inside that 1 stitch. We have just made our first V-stitch. I am going to skip the next stitch, and inside the stitch after that, we are going to place 2 double crochets. This is our second V-stitch. I am going to skip the next stitch, and inside the stitch after that, we are going to place 2 double crochets. Continue the pattern of skipping one stitch and placing 2 double crochets inside the next stitch, and so on all the way until you reach your last stitch. Two double crochets is a V-stitch, so whenever I say work a V-stitch, that's 2 double crochets. I am finished with my row. Don't forget we chain 1 in between all of our rows. I'm going to show you guys how to count your V-stitches. If you are following along with my measurements, you should have a total of 47 V-stitches. This right here is your first V-stitch. These 2 double crochets, that's your first one. This is the second one, third, fourth, and so on. For row 3, we are working a full row of V-stitches. Inside this first V-stitch, which is these 2 double crochets right here, we are going to place a V-stitch. So that means we are going to place 2 double crochets in between these 2 double crochets. Whenever you guys hear me say a V-stitch, that is 2 double crochets. And this is what it should look like. Inside that next V-stitch, I'm going to place a V-stitch. So that is 2 double crochets in between these 2 double crochets. Continue to work V-stitches for the rest of this row. I have finished my third row, and this is what it looks like. You are going to repeat row number 3, which is a regular row of V-stitches, until you reach row number 19. This is the length of my top, and this is roughly around 8 inches. If you are following your own measurements, you are going to repeat row number 3 until you reach your desired length. This basically measures from your armpit to however long you want your top to be. And I strongly suggest following your own measurements and just using my measurements as a guide, depending on your tension and whether you're using a worsted yarn or not. It can definitely alter the measurements, so I want you guys to keep that in mind. This is what it looks like when all 19 of my rows are completed. We are going to split this one panel into 3 sections to form the back panel and the 2 front panels. Grab 2 stitch markers. We are going to place our stitch marker into the 13th V-stitch. I'm going to count to the 13th V-stitch. I'm going to place the stitch marker right in the middle of the 13th V-stitch, so right in between these 2 double crochets. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side, placing a stitch marker inside the 13th V-stitch. Now I'm going to fold it in to give you an example of what I mean. Okay, so you see, this is the back panel in between the stitch markers. And from this corner to this corner, this is the front panel. And from this corner to this corner, that is the second front panel. So 3 sections. 1, 2, 3. If you are following your own measurements, I'm going to show you how to do this for your own. The first thing you want to do is make sure that it's completely open and laying flat. And then you're going to take your panel and you're going to fold it in half. It's going to look like this. One side should have an open, the other side shouldn't. Now the corner that is not open, you're going to take your stitch marker and you're going to place it in that corner. And now you can open your panel, and this is the middle. Take one side and fold it into the stitch marker in the middle. And this corner right here, as you see, I already have my stitch marker because mine is marked. But in this corner, you're going to place your stitch marker in between your V-stitch, and then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Both sides have to be equal, so since I have my stitch marker in the 13th V-stitch on this side, it also needs to be in the 13th stitch on this side as well. Now you can go ahead and open your panel, make sure your stitch markers are placed. You can remove the stitch marker in the middle. Next up is the straps. I'm doing a measurement of 14 inches. This is the measurement of your armhole. Replace my measurement with yours for a perfect fit. Make sure that the corner your yarn is still attached to is on the right side because we're going to begin working on our shoulders on the right side. For row 20, we're starting our first front panel and we're decreasing. So in order to decrease, we are going to skip this first stitch and place a double crochet inside the second stitch. So one double crochet inside the second stitch. It should look like this. Mark your first stitch with a stitch marker. And now you're going to continue working V-stitches like you normally would inside the V-stitch all the way down until you reach your stitch marker. Do not place anything inside the V-stitch with a stitch marker, and I will meet you back there. I have made it to my V-stitch with the stitch marker. I haven't placed anything inside of it yet. In order to decrease, we are going to skip the first stitch of that V-stitch and we are going to place a double crochet inside the second stitch of that V-stitch. I'm going to place my double crochet inside that second stitch of the V-stitch. Mark your last stitch with a stitch marker. Always mark your stitches, this is important. Chain one and turn your work. Now for row 21, we are going to decrease again. So this is our first stitch, the stitch right here with the stitch marker, that double crochet. We are going to skip that double crochet. Now inside this V-stitch, inside the second stitch inside this V-stitch, which is this stitch right here, this is the second stitch inside the V-stitch, we are going to place a double crochet. You're going to remove that stitch marker and place it inside that double crochet we just worked. And we have just decreased. As you see, it's starting to create a slope. Now you're going to continue working V-stitches all the way down until you reach the V-stitch before the stitch marker. So I have reached the V-stitch before the stitch marker, and inside that second stitch inside this V-stitch, I'm gonna place a double crochet. Should look like this. In the stitch with the stitch marker, we're gonna skip that stitch. We're gonna move our stitch marker and we're gonna place it into that stitch we just worked. Chain 1 and turn your work. For row 22, we're going to repeat row 21. We are going to skip that double crochet. Now inside this V-stitch, inside the second stitch inside this V-stitch, we are going to place a double crochet. You're going to remove that stitch marker and place it inside that double crochet we just worked. Now you're going to continue working V-stitches all the way down until you reach the V-stitch before the stitch marker. I've made it to the V-stitch right before the stitch marker, and inside that second stitch inside this V-stitch, I'm going to place a double crochet. You're going to remove that stitch marker and place it inside that double crochet we just worked. Chain 1 and turn your work. Repeat row 21 until you reach row number 24. You're going to have a total of 8 stitches left. If you are following your own measurements, you are going to repeat row 21 until you have a total of 8 stitches left. Row number 21 is time stamped at the bottom if you need to rewatch it. I have completed all 24 of my rows and I have a total of 8 stitches. It looks like this. For row 25, we are no longer decreasing, so we're not going to skip any more stitches and we're going to focus on the length of the straps. Inside the very first stitch, the stitch with the stitch marker, you are going to place a double crochet. You no longer need stitch markers if you're familiar with your stitches. You are going to continue working V-stitches all the way down until you reach your last stitch. Made it to my stitch marker. And now I'm going to place a double crochet inside that last stitch. You should have a total of 8 stitches. Chain 1 and turn your work. For row number 26, we're going to repeat row number 25. I'm going to place a double crochet inside this first stitch. And I'm going to work V-stitches all the way down until I reach the last stitch. And I'm going to place a double crochet inside that last stitch. Repeat row number 25 until you reach row 52. This is roughly around 14 inches. This is the length of my strap, and this is the measurement of my armhole. If you are following your own measurements, repeat row number 25 until you reach your strap measurements. Remember, the strap is a measurement of your armhole. I highly suggest you follow your own measurements when you're working with your armhole and use my measurements as a guide. I'm finished with my rows. It looks like this. I like to measure starting from row 20. That's where we started to decrease, and work my way out. And as you see, it is up to 14 inches, and that's what I was aiming for. If you're satisfied with their length, chain 1 and cut your yarn. Slide over to the other panel. You are going to repeat row 20 to row 52. I'm going to start the first row off with you, which is row 20, to show you how to attach your yarn. Now row 20 is going to be a little bit different, but 21 to 52 is completely the same. The project's going to be flipped, but the process is completely the same. Grab your yarn and a 5mm hook and make a slip knot. We are starting at the stitch marker. Inside the first stitch of that V-stitch with the stitch marker, the very first stitch, we are going to place a double crochet. When you yarn over, place your finger over the string that you yarned over with so it stays in place. Mark your first stitch with your stitch marker. Continue working V-stitches all the way down until we reach our last V-stitch. I've made it to the very last V-stitch, and now you're going to place a double crochet inside the very last stitch. So one double crochet inside the last stitch. Then from this point on, you're going to repeat rows 21 to 52. I'm going to remind you, it's the exact same thing we did on the other side. It's just flipped. The process is completely the same. If you are following your own measurements, you're just going to repeat however many more rows you did on the other side. Now that both of my straps are complete, we're going to work on our border. So now we're going to fold both sides in. Remember, the stitch marker is where the corner is at. So before we get to working on our border, you need to decide which side is your good side. I'm perfectly fine with this being my good side. If you're not satisfied with this being your good side, just flip it inside out. We're going to turn our work to the right. Alright, so we're going to begin with our border right here. This is right in the 20th row. Grab your 4mm hook and make a slip knot. Alright, so we are going to work single crochets from here all the way down with our 4mm hook. Right here at the very top, we are going to place a single crochet. I'm going to take this extra string right here and move it down. That way I can crochet over it. In this big hole right here, which is a V-stitch, in between these two double crochets, I'm going to place a single crochet. Then right here inside this double crochet, I'm going to insert my hook anywhere inside of the double crochet and place a single crochet. Don't forget, we are single crocheting over that extra string. In between these two double crochets, I'm going to place a single crochet. Then right here inside this double crochet, I'm going to insert my hook anywhere inside of the double crochet and place a single crochet. As you see, it gives it a clean look. Inside that hole, which is the V-stitch, I'm going to place a single crochet. Inside the double crochet, I'm going to place a single crochet. So you're basically working inside the hole and inside the double crochet. And when I say work inside the double crochet, that just means stick your hook anywhere inside the double crochet. You can work your single crochets however you want to. I like doing it this way because it just gives it a clean look. You want to make sure you're not inserting your hook inside the same spot twice because that's going to create an increase. I'm going to continue doing this method all the way until I reach the bottom. I've made it all the way to the bottom. This is my last stitch. And now we're going to turn the work so the bottom is at the top. So now you see this bottom is facing the top and the strap should be at the bottom now. Inside the last stitch that we did on the side, this stitch right here, we're going to go back into that stitch and place a single crochet. This helps form a corner after we work our next stitch. Now we're going to work in the stitches at the bottom. We're going to work single crochets all the way across. And I am single crocheting over that extra string. That way I don't have to weave it in at the end. When you are working your single crochets, do not work with a tight tension. I've worked all of my single crochets and now we're going to turn our work so we could work single crochets on the other side. We have to create another corner for this side. So inside that very last stitch that we worked, put your hook back inside that stitch and place a single crochet. Inside that double crochet, you're going to place a single crochet. And then you're going to continue working the method we did on the other side by placing your hook into the V-stitch in the middle and then placing your hook into the double crochet anywhere inside that stitch. We're going to keep rotating between the two all the way until you reach the end, and then we're finished and you're going to chain one and cut your yarn. You should be finished with your border and you should be staring at your good side. Now we're going to fold the ends in on both ends. Line it up, make sure that it is even. It has to be even for your straps. When everything is even, grab both of the front panel along with the back panel. Make sure they're all in your hand and flip it over to the back. Once you flip it over, straighten out your straps, make sure everything is still even. Fold the straps and make sure they line up. With the tail that's still attached to the straps, we are going to use those to slip stitch these together. If your tail is not long enough, just grab your yarn, make a slip knot, and put it on your hook. Grab your hook and line it up with the end of the strap, then slide your hook all the way down, and whatever stitch is right there, insert your hook. And then I'm gonna insert my hook inside the first stitch in the strap, yarn over and work a slip stitch. Continue working slip stitches until you reach the last stitch inside the strap. Now that I made it to the last stitch, I'm going to chain one and tug on it. I'm going to repeat the exact same thing on the other strap. I'm going to do that off camera and I'll meet you back when I'm finished. Grab your needle, we are weaving in our ends. The goal is to basically take your needle and weave it inside in between any stitch or any space you can find and work back and forth until you feel like your string is hidden enough. Then we split it, tie it, and we cut the end. You can weave your string in however you like. This is just how I do it. I'm going to weave all my other strings in off camera and I'll meet you back when I'm finished. I've weaved in all my strings. As you see, no loose strings are visible. Next up, we're going to make the chains that you tie in the front. They're going to be 2 strings. I already worked mine. I chained a total of 80 chains. I'm not going to show you guys how to do this because you already know how to chain chains. I'm going to chain 2 strings and they're both going to be 80 chains. If you want your strings to be longer, just chain more chains. I have completed my 2 strings and now I'm folding my top end to close it. This should be your good side you're looking at. And now I'm going to weave my strings in. I'm going to place 1 string at the top and then I'm going to place 1 string in the middle. You could place your strings wherever you want. I'm just going to insert my hook, make sure that both sides are matching, and then I'm just pulling the string through. Lastly is the little strings at the bottom. For this next part, you're going to need something hard that you can wrap your yarn around. Whatever you can find that's hard that you can wrap yarn around will do. I'm going to grab my yarn and wrap it around this box 5 times. Then after that, I'm going to go to the bottom where the strings are at, and then I'm going to cut it. I'm going to take the strings off. It should look like this. Grab one of my strings, the end of it, and I'm going to insert my hook into the second chain. I'm going to wrap my yarn over the crochet hook. pull the strings through just a little bit, not fully. I'm going to insert my thumb and my index finger. I'm going to grab all the strings. Make sure you grab all of them. Pull it through the hole. Should look like this. And then I'm going to tug on all the strings to seal it. Cut the end of your string, whatever length you desire. I like mine to be a little bit shorter.